or, creating a one-time payment. It's just, that's what they want. They want easy, free, instant. And by the way, can it also organize my whole sporting experience? That's what it is. So usually the organizer comes on, they choose the platform, and they set up their page and their schedule or the registration. And then we have a system where you push it out to your community via email or text or however, or Facebook or whatever it is that you want to do. And that draws everybody back to PlayyOn, and then they sign up.
Yeah, and when I saw that, I kept thinking, man, of all the things I've either seen or been roped into helping out with, or in some cases, you're the last person in the meeting and suddenly you have the job to run something, that it's a big deal. And that's a reason why I'll say I'll be the bench coach. When someone needs help these days, I'm like, I will run your bench, but there's a lot of logistics out there. Because for me, it was taking away the fun. And that's really the beauty there, that I really wanted to bring up. I definitely want people to know about the service you provide, but not just because, hey, it's a cool service, but because it really is you're going to enjoy being a parent, coach so much more when those things are removed, because it's just those things, just one more thing after working, and we've all, myself included, all have our kids in way too many sports because we can these days, and even our smartphones have been helping us along to somehow deal with 6 events in 5 venues, 3 kids in a day. I've had that before recently. But have people come
again
back?
Well, I was just going to say, that again, thinking about your audience, who are mostly coaches, and again, I want to always say is that to the administrators or potentially the coach, don't set your season up for failure. Like, you want to set it up so that when you hire a coach to coach kids on a skill and on life lessons, what ends up happening is most of these coaches, all the crap that they have to deal with, the way that they fail is because somebody didn't get an email, or, nobody went to the right location. I mean, it's all that logistical stuff that they fail at. And then somehow that ends up on their scorecard of the fact that, they're not a very good coach because they never communicate with us. Well, okay, so set them now up for success. Get them on the platform, and then allow that coach to just coach. Right? Absolutely. That's what you really want to be able to do. And I think that's really, setting people up for success is a big part of making sure that both the coach, the players, and the parents are all happy at the end of the season.
What is this? How do you think this is helping with the parent side, or whether it's the current features or what you plan to have it do in the future?
Well, like I said, the one thing about for me and you, we both had multiple kids and multiple sports all over the place. And this will be like one platform. Like, imagine if we all used different email platforms that didn't communicate with each other.
Right.
And this is one platform that allows every team to have its own database and communication method. But now, once you're on PlayyOn, all your team's information ends up on your activity page. So now my daughter's basketball, my son's football, my other son's e-gaming, all of their schedules can end up on my calendar in one spot. And then I sync that calendar on PlayyOn with my Google Calendar, and it just makes it easy. So when one thing changes, I can see it immediately.
And I was just picturing in my head, when the reality of that appears on my phone, and I've started doing this when actually I would start printing out from my email, just the calendar version. I would print out the blank calendar, and I would start writing in all of our stuff on who needs to be where and how and this and that. But if I saw it on my phone, I could tell you right now that I would start to think, I think we're doing too much stuff. Do we really have to sign up for everything?
Well,
and that is part of it. I mean, don't worry. No one's going to stop playing more sports than they ought to. But I think sometimes we look at, everything is got traveling now. Everything has just got to be more and more and more games, where for a lot of levels, like, I think kids are okay with in-house. You just,
that's right.
Just go out here.
They just want to play.
Right.
Yep, they do.
So I can picture that being a pleasant side effect of less traveling, less formal games. And I know, having talked with both U.S. Soccer and in the training I do on behalf of U.S. Lacrosse, they're really looking to get back to under the age of 13, a totally different athletic development model where they call them the small-sided games, no scores. You mix up the teams because there's just so much stress being inflicted on everybody. Kids getting up 3 hours, ahead of game time because of the drive, because of the warm-up, and whatever else you have there and all the stuff they have to get together. And it really does start to slowly suck the fun out of it. And when I think that's some simplicity that we get there out of this, because you just kind of forget. You say, oh, I'm depriving my kid of something. And then when you realize, I can't imagine a thing I'm depriving them of other than sleep. When you look at all the great stuff that you've got your kid involved in.
I think when it stops being fun, and remember, hard work and fun go hand in hand too. So I'm not saying to everybody doesn't have to get a little trophy, and not everybody has to, feel like it was the most wonderful experience. But when it becomes a drudgery, then it's not the right thing to be doing anymore. But again, I think a lot of these, like you talked about the traveling teams, and you've talked about that sort of, everybody's sort of taken it to another level of competition. Why are we doing that? Like, my daughter also plays lacrosse. I've heard of some club lacrosse teams that go all to the other side of the country to play in competitions. And all I can
here. Yeah,
I know.
I see him all summer in Maryland and Virginia. I see him coming from Oregon.
That's right.
And so forth.
And what and by the way, I know this one club does it because the families love to travel together, right? So in my opinion, okay, that's defining success. Have at it. It's fun. But when it becomes where people have the wrong mindset where, well, we need to travel to get scholarships, I'm like, no, you really don't. If you're traveling because it enhances the experience to have that amazing experience, then go do it. But once it stops being about the enjoyment of the sports and the advancement of each individual's ability, then I think we need to rethink it. And again, there are much smarter people than me that can talk about that whole world more than anything else. So I just really feel like we need to create an environment where we're setting up coaches and players and people for success. So again, we need a different narrative, and we need that. I'm calling for participation to come back and remind people that no matter what your age, no matter what your ability, get active and be active because it's good for you. I actually, and if you can bear with me, I have my top 5 of why you should participate in sports. Right.
Excellent.
So this is my top 5. So number 1, participating in sports and recreation activities. It helps you deal with challenges, right? So, when something goes tough in life, I always say, my daughter loves this quote, which is, suck it up, buttercup, right? We have to learn how to deal with challenges. And those challenges might be personal, or it might be like a team challenge. And you have to figure out how to have a common goal with other people and how to set goals, work together, and then have a roadmap that can move us forward. So dealing with challengers, I think, is really important. So I would say hashtag suck it up, buttercup, and hashtag PlayyOn. So that's number 1. But it's all about learning how to deal with challenges. And even today, even dealing with referees is learning how to deal with something that's a challenge. So number 2 is, when you're participating in sports and recreation activities, it lets us practice dealing with failures. And the anxiety level for kids today about failing in life is off the charts. I will admit that I used to have a terrible fear of failure when I was young because I wanted part of my image to be that I was great at whatever I did. And I had, again, great coaches that taught me that if you're not failing, you're not learning. And so whether you're throwing the ball too long, or you've just missed a penalty kick, or you've lost a game, well, those failures he taught me were all learning opportunities too. Again, an amazing hero to me, my coaches were, because he taught me what resilience was. So when I go into the workplace and I don't get a job, I don't just crumble. I'm like, okay, well, obviously that didn't work. I had to try something else. So hashtag practice resilience, hashtag PlayyOn. So that's number 2. Number 3 was participating in sports and recreation activities brings people together. And I'm not just talking about the players, because that's really important. You know, that experience you get on the court with or the field with the other teammates is really important. But it's also bringing together other people that might be on the sidelines. And it fosters camaraderie and community. And that's a really important dynamic of making us feel like we're better human beings, because now we belong to something that's bigger than ourselves. And that bringing of people together and belonging is, just a basic human need as far as I'm concerned. Especially for teenagers. I heard a specialist once talk that said, it was a teenage talk, and they said teenagers will actually bond better with family members who come out to their games and cheer from the sidelines. Not coach, but cheer from the sidelines.
Right.
So again, if you're trying to figure out a way to bond with your teenager, just come out and say positive things and support their effort and what they're trying to do. Great way to bond with your kids. And so, I would say hashtag and do it together, and hashtag PlayyOn. So that's 3. Number 4 was participating in sports and recreation activities helps build self-esteem. Again, another development, and this is all Maslow's hierarchy of needs for all those behavioral psychologists. We're starting to say, oh, that sounds familiar. But this is about building self-esteem. And self-esteem comes not just from yourself feeling like you're doing something successful or doing it well, but it comes from when you have people out there that are cheering for you, whether it's your coach or your family or your teammates. They're encouraging you to strive hard to succeed. And oftentimes they can push you beyond what you thought you could do. And for me at least, and I know for a lot of people, that can lead to understanding that you have vast potential. And that is so powerful in life. That if you work hard enough at something, that if you really dedicate yourself and you give it your best, your all, you can accomplish things. And so that self-esteem is so important. So I always say, hashtag, let's do this. Hashtag PlayyOn. So number 5, which is perhaps a little bit more focused on the side that is all about health. We want people to be active, but we want them to be active not just because it's good for the body. It's also really good for the mind. Although my body might disagree that sports is good for you after a really intense game of basketball, my body hurts. But in general, sports and rec is about having a healthy lifestyle. Just be active every day. Learn that, there's going to be a part of your day where you get to go play. And that is important for the body. It's also equally as important for the mind, because we need to have that release, that fun, that boosting of energy. And again, right back to that point of community, it makes us feel like we have a community of people that have similar interests and common needs. So I always say hashtag sports for life. So those are my top 5.
Well, and that was awesome, because I often will be the one saying, give me your top 5. And you came with that already packed with the preloaded hashtags. That was excellent. And I jotted them down because, there's a lot of interesting things about it, like on the persevering and things like that, and dealing with failure. And I enjoy saying things to like all 4 of my daughters, like, suck it up, buttercup. And they know I'm kidding, but not. In other words, you're kidding and, the harsh words, but you're like, no, you can do this. Come on, let's go. And, failure, go do it. You go learn something. And in the day job, that's what I do all day long with young professionals, saying, oh, that was a good mistake.
Yeah.
And they're a little stunned, like, well, make mistakes as often as you can. Just try not to make the same one. And then don't hide. And for God's sakes, don't hide it. Let's
we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the same with all of those things that I just talked about. when I'm interviewing young men and women, or any age woman for that matter, man or woman, I'm trying to figure out who they are. They may have gone to some